Welcome to the NVIDIA Omniverse live stream, everybody. Really glad to have you join us today. As you can see, we have a great panel of special guests from across the world as we celebrate Blender and OpenUSD. And you're going to find out how different people are leveraging Blender and USD across different kind of areas, from film to creative to industrial. And we're very fortunate also to have NVIDIA's own Charles Wardlaw here, who's going to help be our resident expert, helping tackling some of the tough questions people might have, or maybe some of the not so tough ones on leveraging USD and Blender. Really happy to have everybody here. We invite everybody to post your comments in the chat. Any questions you have for any of our guests, we're going to be posting links throughout this live stream of some of our panelists' websites and their work. And let's kick this off by a couple of quick announcements, as we always do, talking about, well, we got something happening in early 2024 that we can start celebrating now. And that is GTC, the in-person experience is back. We are all excited for this. If you check out the NVIDIA GTC website, nvidia.com/GTC, you can find out all the latest about the upcoming GTC conference. There will be also support for hybrid and virtual stuff. So if you can't make it there, don't worry. But we really encourage everyone who has the opportunity to come. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. You'll be able to engage with a lot of people in the community and leaders from the team. We have some very special events planned. There'll be a session catalog posted pretty soon. Stuff start coming together, but we definitely want people to follow the website for the latest on there. Well, I went too fast. Obviously, we also have been celebrating USD, as we're talking about in today's live stream. Everyone might be familiar with Aaron Luck's great series on USD. We have the next video out just recently. So it's focused on custom schemas. We're going to post the link in the live stream to this playlist. So don't worry about if you missed the original videos, this playlist, because that playlist link will give you access to all of them. So for anyone who's just learning about what USD is, or people who are now becoming experts in it, there's something there for everybody in these playlists, in this playlist from Aaron. So I encourage everyone to check that out. We've been talking about this because it's so awesome. We have been celebrating some users across the world in our USD All-Stars book. It's an ebook. Very familiar names you'll see here. Vanessa, Benjamin, Michael Wagner, Pink Fan, Kirill, Rafi, who's we have a couple of Omniverse ambassadors there with Michael Wagner and Rafi Nizam. Really cool work across also different areas that could inspire and also help educate on your workflow. So we encourage everyone to check out that ebook. We'll post a link in the chat as well. And then at SIGGRAPH, we had a fantastic day focused around OpenUSD with sessions with experts. Those sessions are now available for people who couldn't be at SIGGRAPH, or you were there and now you want to kind of recap it and watch it again. We have all the sessions now available for online viewing. So that's super exciting. And of course, in case you missed it, the Alliance for OpenUSD was also recently announced around the SIGGRAPH timeframe. As you can see there, Pixar, Adobe, Apple, Autodesk, and NVIDIA, and many others are a part of this alliance, and it's really exciting to see everything come together. As I bumped into Bob at SIGGRAPH, and as he'll confirm, it definitely was a talk of the floor there. Everyone was talking about USD, and the alliance is really going to be an exciting place to come discuss it. Post your ideas. There's a great forum if you want to engage with people on OpenUSD. So let's actually move on to the topic of today, which is OpenUSD also, but Blender. And we are very fortunate to have some great guests, as I said earlier. I'll start from around we'll go around the world here, but Emily, you're connecting in from not only from Germany, but you're originally from Australia. You actually were just featured on a blog, an amazing blog, I should say, and we'll post that link in the chat for everyone who didn't see it yet. Just came out yesterday. Emily, you have a really interesting background, and what caught our eye was a really fantastic video you posted on LinkedIn too long ago, showing off your multi-step workflow. I want to give everybody some background on who you are and what that was all about.
Yeah, so hi, I am from Brisbane, Australia, and last year I graduated from Queensland University of Technology doing a Bachelor of Industrial Design. And And while I was there, I did an internship at BMW Academy. It's like something set up with the university that's where I was introduced to Blender and doing 3D asset creation through Blender and Substance Painter, which is really cool. And that really excited me. And then I was lucky enough to get a internship at BMW headquarters in Munich. So that's where I am now. And I've been here since January this year, which is pretty exciting. And yeah, so now I'm working on the SORDI project, which is basically like a large data set for industrial context. So we've generated over 1 million images now. Yeah, so
That's wild. Yeah,
Blender.
I definitely encourage everyone to check out that blog, and we're going to discuss it more in a few minutes when Emily's going to show off some of her workflow. But Emily, so glad to have you here. Thanks for staying late at the office. I know it's past dinner time now.
Happy to be here.
So let's move on to Bob, or Blender Bob as he's known. Bob, I just mentioned a few minutes ago, we bumped into SIGGRAPH recently, and really exciting to see your Kickstarter project, Tiki, get funded just a few weeks ago. But you're doing a lot more than that. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell me about your background?
Yeah, well, I've been working in the VFX industry since 1995. I worked I worked in many companies over all these years, and big companies, small companies. I worked on many feature films, like 60 feature films or something. You know, a lot of movies, a lot of big companies, a lot of small companies. But then I reached a point in my career where I was getting tired of working for these big, huge shops, you know, the ones that do the Marvel stuff and everything, because everything became just like I used to say, a sausage factory, where, you know, you get something, you make it, next. And I needed more than that. I need creativity to drive me, and I need to find new ways to do stuff. This is what drives me. And I decided to just leave the last big company I worked for and go work for Real by Fake in Montreal, where I'm from. And Real by Fake is a very technologically driven company. And my job now, I'm not doing production work anymore at the company. I started the 3D department there, but now I'm not doing any production work. What I do right now is R&D. My job is to find the latest, greatest technology and bring it to Real by Fake and try to implement it into our pipeline. And USD just, you know, is exactly in my field. So I need to experiment with everything out there to see what is the best way to achieve what we're trying to do. And like you mentioned, I also do the Tiki movie, which is a collective movie that we're doing in Blender. And while most of it in Blender, I would say 98% in Blender. And yeah, it's a collective movie. So I have a YouTube channel called Blender Bob, hence the name, because I don't go in the street saying, hey, my name is Blender Bob. That's just for YouTube. And yeah, I decided to start this community project. And at the time, I had 30,000 subscribers. And I thought, well, if 1% of you guys join the project, that would be 300 people. That's like a Pixar movie. And I got flooded with emails, and so many people wanted to participate, and we started it, and it's going very well.
That's awesome, and I should note also one of our fan favorites here on live stream, Marcom 3D, is also participating with movies. He's doing voiceover.
Yes. He's doing the voice for Damien, which is one of the main two characters, and he's also helping on the technical side also, because he's very knowledgeable, and we really appreciate that he's on the project.
I'm sure you're leveraging his great sense of humor in that character.
Yes, and the voice. I mean, you just listen to the guy, and he's funny, just right there.
Yeah. He is.
He's perfect for that.
We're so honored to have you here. So really glad to have you here. I'm also very honored to have my next guest here, Jeremy Lightcap. I feel like we go back, I don't know, a ways.
In my head, it's not at all scientific, which is
I want to let people know we're getting some feedback from somebody. Oh, okay, Jeremy's.
That's me. Yeah, I'm going to be trying to click this mute button on and off as fast as I can.
That's okay. That's okay. So Jeremy is part of the Omniverse community originally because he entered a contest and he created this amazing image. We'll post a link in the chat. Speaking of Pixar, it looks like something straight out of a Pixar movie to me. And he used the existing assets and his great creativity to create this nice Western scene. He also worked with us on our CES keynote demo, which was a great collaboration with multiple artists, including Rafi, Pekka Varis, Jay Salina, of JS Films, and it was just really, and a couple others, but a really great collaboration, and really leveraging a lot of the art you had created for that Western scene. Tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your background, and what you probably will show off a little later today.
Yeah, no, thank you. That was an awesome introduction. Again, I'm sorry if there's a little bit of feedback. Yeah, so I guess I'm really just like a generalist in the animation industry. Started working with really tiny studios, and that kind of forced me to learn a lot of different tools right away. And then I started working with Netflix, doing some kind of 3D visual development. So I work for them part-time. And yeah, in my free time, I've actually been doing something similar to Blender Bob, where I kind of got tired of the routine of everything. So I thought, oh, I wonder if I can make my own really tiny little short animation by myself, or see how far I can get, with the knowledge that's available to me via YouTube. But I was very excited, by the way, Blender Bob, to see that Tiki got funded, because I was one of the first people to back it. So congratulations on that. I'm super excited to see what you guys end up doing with that.
Thank you so much.
That's awesome. Very cool. I was one of the first ones. I was probably one of the last ones, but I was glad to squeak in there. So Jeremy, thank you so much for coming. And I think you're going to show off something of that little animated short in a minute.
Yeah.
So we're super excited to see that. Jeremy has got this really awesome character he's been working on. I won't give anything away. I'll let him show it in a second. And then last but not least, we are, as I said earlier, we're very fortunate to have Charles Wardlaw here from the NVIDIA team. So Charles, thank you for joining us. Why don't you tell everybody about your background, and then that will everybody give people in the audience some context, and they're asking their questions.
Sure. Yeah. I've been a Blender user since at least 20 years now. It's been a while. And I've worked in VFX and animation. On Blender projects, I worked on Maya and the 3 and Next Gen. They were both Netflix projects. And I sort of switched out of doing character rigging and CG supervisor work into coding. So now I'm a software engineer. And NVIDIA allows me to work on Blender and make it better and make USD better inside of Blender, fixing bugs, adding features. So that's been pretty great. Yeah, don't know what else to say right now.
Charles, I'll say a little bit more for you, because Charles is amazing. He's very helpful. People in the community probably recognize him as being active on our forums, on the Discord. If someone posts a question and I need help, I go to Charles. And Charles, as usual, he's the first to respond. So now that everyone watching has a good feeling of who's here and what their backgrounds are, definitely feel free to start posting questions in the chat. What I want to talk about first, actually, is this, like, what is Blender? And for those who are watching who may not be aware of it, why would you use it? And obviously, everyone here has great experience. Who wants to take that question first? Why? Let's start with Blender Bob, since it's in your name. Blender, why? Tell me, what is Blender, first of all?
Blender is an amazing software that is so underrated by the entire community. Not the entire industry, I should say, not the community, by the industry. The last big shop I worked where I worked, I asked if I could get Blender, and they told me, "What is Blender?" I was like, because they are so stuck in their little environment. They're known. We always use this software, and you try to get something new in these big companies, and it's like they didn't even know what Blender is. And when I discovered Blender, because I tried Blender, first of all, a friend of mine kept telling me, you need to try it, you need to try it, you need to try it. And it was at 2.79, and I opened it, and I started to click on the screen, and I had this little truss that kept moving on the screen. I couldn't move the camera, I couldn't do anything. I was like, what is that software? And I just closed it, and I was like, I don't want to deal with it. Then 2.8 came out, and now it started, it changed everything. And I started to explore Blender a little bit more, see what it can do. Because I still had in my mind, like everybody else, that this is just a hobby tool. It's open source. How powerful can it be? But then we had the shot at Real by Fake where we had to render some trees, and it was taking 6 hours per frame to render. We had to send it to a render farm. It cost us a fortune to render it. And then I was like, okay, what is that Blender thing? Let's try it in Blender. So I imported everything in Blender. I tried to render the same thing in Cycle. It took 1.5 minutes, and there was no flicker. And it was perfect. And I was like, okay, there's something there. I need to continue exploring Cycle. And at the time, I was the only one in the CG department. There was no CG department at Real by Fake. So I could make the call of saying, hey, we're dropping the other software, the Aztec or Inca, something like this. we drop that software and we go for Blender. And at the beginning, at 2.8, there were no VDBs. There was a lot of stuff missing and everything. But, Alembic was kind of But we gave it a shot, and we have no regrets. And we built the entire pipeline around Blender, and which is something awesome, because if you go in a big company and you say, okay, we're going to switch from this software to another one, it's really hard to happen because they have tools that have been developed for years and years and years. And it's really complicated to bring a new software to a pipeline. But at Real by Fake, we could do it because we started from scratch. And we built an incredible pipeline. I did a talk about this at Beacon last year. So if you search for the Beacon 2022, you will find me somewhere, the clip that I did about the pipeline that we use in Blender. It's an incredible pipeline. And everybody we hire at Real by Fake, most of them, they don't know Blender. Some of them did, but most of them didn't. And they were like, well, I don't know. I've been trained on that other software. Now I need to learn a new software, Blender. And hey, give it a shot. Give it a shot. And we trained them. And you know what? Not a single one of them want to go back to the other software. They'll want to stay with Blender because Blender is just amazing. And it evolved so fast. And that's the thing, the evolution of the software. It goes so fast. 4 versions per year. Now it's going to reduce to 3, which is a good thing because it will have more time to develop the tools. But every week you can see Pablo on Blender Today saying what's coming up and what's been fixed and everything. So much stuff going on in Blender for such a small team. It's amazing. And I sent some bug reports to Blender, and sometimes within days or weeks, it was fixed right away. And it's just like, Blender for me was like a relief. It was like a breath of fresh air. It was like, okay, wow, a new toy and something amazing. Let's go for it.
That's an amazing testimonial. Speaking of a breath of fresh air, look who just woke up.
Hey, Markham.
It's funny enough, when you set an alarm for 3:45 p.m., it doesn't wake you up at a.m.
We've all made that mistake. We did. So I'm gonna just put you in the fire right now, Marcos. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? We actually did talk about you a few minutes ago when we talked about Tiki and your involvement there, but tell us a little bit about yourself and we get a good look at what Markham looks like first thing in the morning.
Hey. I'm Markham 3D, or Marco. I run Markham 3D, which is a YouTube channel. I predominantly do Blender tutorials, but now starting to showcase the power of NVIDIA Omniverse as well. I'm currently working on my own web series. Just got to sit down and just do it. But I've been working with a few other creators as well to bring this to life. But I'm also just showcasing the process of using NVIDIA Omniverse and just the workflows that I'm using, as well as using Reallusion's iClone Character Creator 4 and the Perception Neuron mocap suit. So,
so tell me, why did you choose Blender? Why did you start focusing on it?
Because it's free.
Yeah.
I mean, I had dreams of being an actor. And then I got married and had kids, and no, but it was more. I still wanted to make animation. I still wanted to make movies, and I think just making animations was the next kind of workflow. I created some 2D animations in Blender. They were successful in a way, and so kind of just continued down that journey, and love the sci-fi stuff and just everything that comes. But I think just the Blender community and just meeting up, now chilling with Blender Bob, it's pretty good.
That is pretty good indeed. Let's actually go ahead, Blender Bob.
Did you hear this voice? Did you hear this voice? Now you know why I asked him to do Damien. And I look at everybody's face right now. When he talks, everybody smiles. Because he's just, so that's true. He's the guy.
Edmar, I did just move into a new house, into a new igloo. My friends threw me a housewarming party. Now I'm homeless.
I think I gave everyone a heads up that we might hear a good dad's joke today, and you have succeeded. Thank you for that. And let's hear from your fellow country person, Emily, also from Australia. Emily, so tell us why did you start looking at Blender? Because obviously, I don't think the cost is probably an issue considering your workflow with multi apps. But but tell me more about your perspective.
So I guess I started like doing industrial design. I was doing parametric modeling, so I was using SolidWorks and stuff. So that's different. But then I did this internship, as I said, at the academy, the BMW QT Academy at my university, and they introduced us to Blender. And I don't know, I just instantly loved it. I loved the way that like poly modeling worked, and it felt so kind of unconstrained and so creative, like more artsy. And the other really cool thing about it is that big community, like thousands and thousands of YouTube videos, so much help online. Like I think because it's free, it's just so accessible, and then so many people get on board with it and then start making their own tutorials, blah blah blah. Like it's really cool community, really diverse and powerful software. Yeah, I just love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, that makes a ton of difference having a strong community. And Jeremy, you've also been a huge fan of Blender for a long time. And tell us a little bit about why you chose Blender and what its benefits are for you.
Yeah, so I started off trying to be like a viz dev artist, just doing 2D paintings for animation, but I'm not able to get any work. I tried for years, and then I just saw this guy, Vaughn Ling. He's also known as Heavy Poly. He was just showing his Blender workflow and how he was moving from Modo to Blender, and he had some fantastic tutorials. And I was just like, oh, this seems like fun. Let's try this. And then I just feel like that clicked, and I just fell in love with Blender and 3D. And like Emily said, the community is just so wonderful, and there's so many people willing to share all these ideas and techniques that I just haven't stopped using it I just checked. I started like 5 years ago, so I can't believe how fast time's gone. But that's
awesome,
kind of how it started.
It sounds like Charles has got you beat, though. I don't know, Charles. You've been there a while. Tell me why you've dedicated your life to Blender.
The short story is I started learning poly modeling with Lightwave, and I loved Lightwave. It was a great program, and then I didn't have a license for it, so I was looking for something else to use, and Blender was the only thing I could afford because it was free. And this was even before it went open source. They had a free version, and then they had a version you could pay about $300 for to get some extra features. It had no undo, and for the longest time, I could not do anything with it. I was kind of like just flipping desks all the time. But I came back to it a few months after that, and something clicked. And because Blender and Lightwave sort of work in a similar way with the way that they store data and the way that you can think about things and how to make things, it just sort of worked for me. And then as I got into the industry, my first couple of jobs, I used Blender to model. I converted a bunch of people. There was this show that got shown in Europe called, I don't remember the name of it. It was something about fairies, but we had all these trees. It was a jungle, and they didn't want to model all the trees. So they used some Blender plugins. And then a few of those people got kind of converted to use Blender for UV mapping. And every job that I've worked on, if you see my name in the credits anywhere, Blender was used on the film, including the last Spider-Verse that just came out. But
awesome.
That's the benefit. Like I can go to any studio and I can say, hey, can I install this? And they'll say, okay, how much does it cost? Oh, it's free. Okay, not a problem. And they'll let you install it. You have your same tools. You can bring your same plugins and everything with you from place to place. And because it can import and export stuff across the board, you don't really worry about getting data in or out. So it's a nice kind of Swiss Army knife for going into, I pull things out of Maya, fix it, and then bring it back into Maya to do the rig, or bring it into Blender to do a special effect or something like that. And it's just always been there for me.
Well, you all have made very compelling points for Blender, and let us know in the chat why you chose Blender if you're a current Blender user. And let's put some seeing is believing in there. Blender Bob, I think you gave me a nice little demo reel. This is by your company. This is mostly done in Blender. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's most of it is done in Blender. It's not up to date because we still have new stuff that we haven't time to put there, or the movies are not released yet, so we're not allowed to do them. But at Beacon this year at 2023, I will be presenting a movie we worked on for like a year. We had over 600 shots, 3D shots on the movie, and 95% of them are done in Blender. So it's going to be a big presentation for us to present this work that we worked so hard on, this big feature film, 600 shots in CG. So yeah, that's the Blender. That's the Real by Fake CG demo reel.
Okay, let's take a look. This is about 2 minutes long. So let's grab some popcorn, and we'll be right back, and we'll look at more show and tells in Blender in just a minute. What a great reel, and a great name for a company too, actually. Thanks for sharing that. Very cool. It's got a lot of great comments in the chat. Let me see. A minute ago, we asked why people chose Blender. We hear from Steven here. I switched to Blender from Modo and haven't looked back. Blender is so versatile and fun to use. I agree with the panel here about their reasons for using Blender. Thanks for that, Steven. We also heard from Witty DZN. Main USD for me is that Blender is free to use, and also because of great community, which individual artists like me to get work done. Very cool. And regarding the demo we just saw, nice baseline. All right, cool. So that was really nice. Jeremy, I think you have some workflow you'd like to show off from your current animation.
I'm not that organized. I can show just some behind the scenes of the animation if that's interesting to anybody.
Yeah.
And then I was in the middle of trying to make the title for it, so I could show you guys some cool Blender add-on I found to do that. But is it okay if I share my screen and
you can just go ahead, share away.
All right, let's try it out. Share screen. Uh-oh, hold on. We got a unique share screen prompt here that I haven't seen before.
Okay. You can continue working on that. And I also think Emily has got some show and tell she's been preparing. Emily, what would you like to show us today?
Well, I thought I'd just kind of run through the pipeline of how you kind of make assets and then get them into Omniverse so I can use them to make the images. So
that would be awesome.
Let's share my screen.
And then Markham, you're not off the hook. You're going to go a little bit later. But get ready.
All right. So.
Okay, we can all see your screen. Very cool.
All right, cool. So this is a model I'm working on. It's not quite finished yet, but it's just like a standard box. We call them KLTs here. Which you would find in an industrial context. There's a whole bunch of different ones. And we just model these up along with a whole bunch of different industrial assets so that they can be used to generate like scenes from within like the inside of a factory or something. So I'm just showing this one to kind of show that we start with images. It's particularly easy for a rectangular shape like this, where we will take photos from the different angles and then import them as planes and just line them up so we can get a good just good reference. And then it's really easy to just use that as a guide and make the box or whatever else we're working on, because we really want to get that realism so that the AI can look at this synthetic image, see this model, and then learn to be able to see that in the real world. So being as realistic as possible really is important for that. And then I'm going to move on to this other model. It's a bit simpler for me to work with as a demo. So this is just a little cone that I have made and unwrapped. Using like mid poly at the moment. We do high poly to low poly sometimes, but sometimes because the images are randomly generated, like the camera location is randomly generated, sometimes you end up with kind of close-ups on edges, and then if you've got that low poly kind of mesh, you can kind of see it when it's up close as opposed to like far away when it looks nice. So we're going for mid poly here, and then once you've got it modeled up, you can export it as an FBX, bring it into Substance Painter. And this is just some textures I put on. So I started with like an orange plasticky base, and then I added some white, and this, this cone's been scuffed up, bumped, dropped, stacked up, put away in the factory over years. So it's all scuffed up. And then some scratches, which you can see kind of if you look closer here, like just some little scratches, and then some grunge.
How did you use the tool to do those scratches automatically, or did you do it manually?
I did it manually. So what did I use? I think it's just a height map. So it's a flat layer, I think, which has just got the height slightly reduced. Oh, I can't select this. There we go. Yeah, it's just slightly reduced, and then I just used a mask. And I think I just painted straight on there with one of the brushes and just put that on. And
Very
then say,
cool. Looks very realistic.
Thank you. The grunge map. This one I use a generator. And then I just, this one was a generator. Oh no, this one, can't remember. This one used a generator. And then I just used some paint layers just to kind of darken around here. I thought it looked like it needed a bit more darkening just in that crease, so I just added a bit. But yeah, I love doing the manual stuff, like getting out all the different brushes, using the stencils, because I've always loved drawing and painting and art. So that's one of the things I love about Substance Painter, is you can really just go in and get the stencils and like really just paint it by hand. And the generator is really cool too, but doing stuff by hand suits me as a little artsy girl. And then I export this, and this has an awesome little tick box here, export USD asset. So once you export that USD asset, you can actually just drag that straight into Omniverse. But when you export it, like, you get the textures along with it, and you can also go into Blender and using the Omniverse connector, we can just like make a new material. This is a little ESDF. Oh, it's disconnected. But you can use this little Omni PBR button, and then it sets it up as if it should be. Oh, I think it's deleted the connections. Anyway,
Yeah, it's okay.
I think I pressed a button and it deleted all the connections between the nodes. I don't know what that's about. But basically it sets it up so it should look how it looks in Omniverse. And then what you do is you just put in like the textures that you got out of Substance. You just put them in. I'm going to do it now because they're all disconnected for some reason. But then you can export as USD. And then you can export the USD file and it'll have the textures in there. Something important which I struggled with. I couldn't work out why when I did it like this, the materials were not really connected, but I had to put the materials in the root. The materials were just like this before, and it just wasn't linked up properly. When I worked it out after like 50 times, it's like, there we go. So then it works really good. And then
that's fixed now.
Okay, cool. In Omniverse, we use IsaacSim because we do like we run simulations, we've got the robotics and stuff. So we use Isaac Sim in the Omniverse. And then I can just bring in this asset. So this is the one that I got straight out of Substance, which is cool. Like the textures are all linked up. That's really easy. And then like for the AI purposes, we just add a little class cone. And now Omniverse knows that this is a cone. And I'll show you a bit later how that'll come into play. But I'll save that as Substance cone. So I know it's a Substance one. And also same with the Blender. So yep, the materials come in, which is so nice after I struggled for so long. Then you can just add the same cone class to it, and I can save that. Blender cone. Now, so I'll open up just a little factory kind of scene. So these are all SORDI assets here, and I just kind of set it up as if it's like a little factory scene. And now I should be able to just drag in my assets. And it's just so easy, which is really nice, and they look really good, and the textures are all attached. And if I look in here, you can see the class cone is attached, which means that what I can do is if I just turn on different render variations, so if I put on the tight bounding boxes, you can see that it's picked it up as a cone, which is just showing by that yellow box around it. And you can see all the other assets have got their bounding boxes around it because they've all got classes as well, like the stillages, the dollies, and everything in there. And yeah, so now I can generate images, and all the images are going to have the bounding boxes around it perfectly. And there's different views you can have, such as this, and it just depends, like whatever your purpose is and whatever your AI is going to need. But I think maybe for the most part we use these. I'm not too sure. I don't actually. I'm not the person who's applying these. But yeah, you can. This is just all generated, and if you think like the SORDI data set has got over 1 million images now, and it has, you know, at least 20 assets in every image, for example. And if you had to go and put a little box around all 20 assets in all 1 million images, like that would take forever. You'd probably, you know, make mistakes along the way. Like it's just the time that it saves using Omniverse, having been able to attach that data class onto an asset is just huge, which is kind of the whole driving force behind SORDI, is just the benefits of synthetic images over having to go down to the factory, take 1 million pictures, label 1 million pictures with 20 assets in each of them. Like it's just such a huge difference. And then you can use these to train AI models in industrial contexts. And yeah, so here are some images actually. Oh, maybe I closed them.
That is awesome. You can see what at times it's almost like, how was this done before manually?
Yeah, like it's just opened up like so many possibilities. And these are images that are generated. Like look how many assets are in there.
Wow.
Like you just generate, and you generate a scene like this once, like with all the assets, and then we've developed, I did not do this, but other people in the office developed this extension where it just randomizes, just like moves the assets around a bit, and the camera is moved around the scene, the lighting's changed a bit, so then you can just click play basically and generate thousands of images, all with different factory kind of layouts and different angles and everything. So you get so much data, all labeled, which is just amazing. Just you set it and come back, you know, the next day, and then you just look at all the images that got generated overnight. Like it's just so completely different to how it was done before, and it's so great. Yeah, but that's my workflow.
Super impressive. You're getting some great comments here. People comparing this to a great SIGGRAPH talk. Amazing use case. Question here, I guess, regarding Isaac. Is that semantic schema editor a native part of Isaac Sim?
Yeah, I believe so. That just adding the classes is on. I think. I mean, I'm the designer, so I'm pretty sure it is in there already. And then they've added an extension onto it to randomize assets in there, so that we can get different assets. It's not just pictures of the same factory. But I'm pretty sure that is in there already, which is
very cool. I mean, go ahead, Glenn. Rob, you gonna say something?
The shader converting thing in Blender, I think, is awesome, because once you converted your shader with using that script, now it becomes Omniverse compatible or Omniverse standard if you want. So I guess from there, if you want to send it to Houdini, well, then it's gonna, the shader should be able to translate easily, because you have this Omniverse in between that will do this conversion for you and make sure that it's USD Omniverse compatible if you want. So I guess I'm pretty sure Charles, you can probably confirm to me, if you get a shader, an MDL shader, and you bring it, this will become an MDL shader, right?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah.
It can.
So
it can
this
also
MDL
turn into
shader-
a USD preview surface. So you have the opportunity to work in both ways.
So you should be able to import it into Houdini, and you will get the shader, which should work right away out of the box.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
then
we
you
are
can go
making
back to
progress on
Blender,
that too.
because MDL is the middle interchange format in between. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
We had a good question, I thought, from Steven a minute ago, and this goes to each of you. Your top Blender add-ons that you really can't live without.
Well, one thing that I have is, you mentioned Heavy Poly before, which when we started at doing my internship, they trained us on Heavy Poly scripts. So I haven't got them on the Omniverse connector, because I just had some trouble where I was deleting some features. I probably did it wrong, but I've always used Heavy Poly scripts on my Blender, and when I tried to help my friend sometimes with his Blender, and it's like me being a Windows user and then trying to use a Mac. I'm like, what's this button, the option key, I try and move around, and I cannot use this. I'm so ingrained.
I have the same problem. I can't use
Poly.
default Blender anymore. I have to install the scripts to actually use the program. So
yeah, I'm the same. I literally wrote down how to switch between verts, edges, and faces here, because I might have to do that in in the connector in the live stream, but I don't even know how to do that without just clicking it, obviously. But I'm so ingrained in the Heavy Poly pie charts and pie menus and stuff. I recommend it. But yeah, I learned on it, so I just can't even go without.
Yeah, it makes if you're doing a lot of modeling, I usually only recommend it to people if they're going to do a lot of modeling, because that's what he designed it around. But if you're not, then probably follow a Blender Guru tutorial to learn how to use default Blender.
Yeah.
I cannot use default Blender. When I started it, I was so used to using Maya for 20-something years. I had all the muscle memory and everything. So I reconfigured my Blender completely to be as close as possible to the hotkeys I was used to, especially the snap keys in X, C, and V. And I added B for faces, snap to face, because Maya doesn't have this. And nobody can work on my Blender because it's everything has been remapped on it. But yeah, so I cannot teach Blender because it would drive me crazy. I got a few add-ons I can show you.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so let me share my screen. Where's this share screen button?
Hit present at the bottom.
Present, yeah, all right. So share screen.
And then while you're doing that, Jeremy, were you able to have success with your...
Yeah, let me try right now. Let's see how this goes. Entire screen share. Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Bob, I don't see yours yet. I see Jeremy's.
Okay, so let me try again.
Oh, should I let Bob finish?
No, it's okay.
Are you sure?
Yeah, well, we're going to see. Keep yours there for a second.
Okay.
And then I can bring it on if Bob's doesn't come up right away.
Yep.
Share. Why I got this? Okay, window entire screen. Okay, that's what I want. Share.
Okay, and keep your questions coming in the chat, everybody. And Bob, I see your screens. We'll go to this.
Okay. So the add-on I use the most is a pie menu editor, which allows me to create my own pie menus. And that's why I remapped a lot of things so that I can turn on wireframes and things I use all the time. And it's something that is, for me, the most important add-on that I have on Blender.
From a scoping perspective, will the
What?
sourcing of content...
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's me.
Okay. And this is actually the vegetation from Tiki, and I'm using it's a 4090 video card here, and you can see how fast it is. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. I have millions of polygons in there. And anyway, another add-on that I really like comes from me, and it's this one here, Camera Lock. So this one here, you can lock your camera or not with the screen. So if I go on my camera view here, so now I'm locked to my camera, and I click on this, and I'm not locked to my camera anymore. So instead of having to go to view and to turn this on or off, and you have also the lock to cursor that is available here. So yeah, that comes from me, actually, from ChatGPT, who helped me wrote this, because I don't have the qualifications to do this.
That's great.
There's another item that I wrote that allows me to, but it's not here because this is a new computer and I'm not set up with all my tools yet. No, I don't have it. It allows me to select object and easily turn them into bounding boxes. So it's faster this way than having to, if you have a very heavy geometry scene and everything is hard to do. If you want to do the entire scene, you can just click on one button, everything will become a bounding box. Or there's 3 different modes that you can have bounding box, shaded in gray or shaded with textures. And it's super, super useful to do, but I cannot show it to you. But you can go to my BlenderBob website and you will see it. You will see this on YouTube. Go to BlenderBob and you will see the description for the add-on. I don't even remember what the name is. And also render button. My big render button is one that I use all the time because you can easily switch from one camera to another here, and you can set up different render resolutions per camera if you want. And there's a lot of cool things that you can do with this. So it's an easy way to switch from one camera to another. And Easy HDRI is also another one that I use for environments that is pretty cool. So yeah, these are the add-ons that I use the most. And I'm done with my sharing. Yeah.
Thank you. What a great question, Stephen. So thanks for asking that. Okay, so let's go. I think Jeremy's in the wings here. Jeremy, let's share your screen. Are you ready?
Yeah, I should be sharing. Can you see it?
Yeah, here we go.
Cool. Whew. All right. So basically, this was a sketch I did in VR in Quill, like the first year that I started learning Blender. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then I saw it again recently, not recently, about 2 years ago. Me and my wife were just talking about, like, why did this character, this kind of Yeti character, find this, like, Santa's crashed sled? And so together we wrote, like, a little story about it, and we storyboarded it together. And then for, like, basically 2 years, this whole thing has, like, ballooned into this, like, way higher quality thing than I wanted it to be. I wanted it to feel very stop motion-y and kind of jankety. And so this is kind of like what the character looked like 2 years ago when I kind of redrew him in Quill. And then I tried to, like, convert that into, like, a Blender model, and it looked kind of horrifying. And so I was fighting to make him look better and better. And then me and my wife ended up getting married. And my super talented friend, his name is Lucas Zung, he drew this painting of me and my wife with the Yeti, with our cats. And so I was like, holy crap, that is such a better version of the Yeti. And so I was like, okay, well, thank you, professional concept artist. I'm going to now take that and turn it into a CG character. So it's pretty amazing what happens when you have good reference to build off of. So then, yeah, I would say about a year ago, I started, like, painstakingly going through the hair simulation system in Blender and just, like, learning how to make a character from the ground up. Because typically I do a lot of hard surface modeling. I don't do, like, organic character stuff at all. So this was, like, a really painful, slow process. But, I got him to a point where he looked really good. But then after that, it came, like, the point where I had to, simulate it. And so I got into, like, a bunch of simulation stuff. And my goal for this whole project was to get everything stable. And then once it was stable, I would kind of go in and just start the process. So I think this is, like, a hair test that I did where you can kind of see, like, there's no flickering, there's no issues. And then I had to learn, like, okay, well, that doesn't look very windy. How do I make this feel windier? And it's just been this like, long process of like just learning all the tools in Blender and trying to figure out, what I needed to get the feel and the vibe of the film. But it's been a really fun process. And then, after the Yeti was done, I was like, okay, well, he's got to sit on a mountain. And so I started learning a little bit of Gaia and bringing that into Blender and just trying to figure out like how, I don't know, just making something interesting, but not too overly complicated, because again, I'm trying to do most of this like by myself. So I'm just basically finding assets that look good and then saving them and coming back to them. But my main process for making the environments is working in Gravity Sketch. So I'll go in VR, excuse me, and I'll just design, rocks and branches and twigs and stuff. And then I'll bring that into Blender. And I think my favorite tool is probably, it's a paid add-on, but it's Quad Remesher. This is so important if you're working from like VR and then bringing it into Blender, because it kind of remeshes your geometry in a way that's manageable. And then you can take it into Substance Painter and texture things pretty quickly. Otherwise, you'd have to like shrink wrap and re-UV everything yourself, and it would just take so much time. But yeah, so just trying to figure out like, what's the Yeti's house look like? Where's he live? What's his situation? And then, then going into texturing, trying to make sure that all the models look good from afar and look up, good from up close, and just make sure that nothing is too heavy, because, once you start scattering really dense things, then the scenes kind of bog down pretty quickly. And then, this is me kind of testing out like, all right, well, how do I make snow? And how do I make it look like it's, sitting on these rocks? And I have a bunch of really talented friends who are always willing to lend their eyes and give me feedback. And I feel so lucky that I can share these, this project with them. So basically the story is like, he's on top of a mountain. He gets frustrated and he ends up leaving his mountain, and he kind of travels across this frozen lake. And then he gets into a forest where he kind of finds Santa's crashed sleigh. But it's been a long process, but I'm getting very close to starting animation tests. And I'm actually working with a super talented animator right now to make a little trailer for it. And I don't know when we're going to finish that, but we have some really pleasant scenes that we're working on. But the title of it is Pabu, which apparently in Tibet means fur ball, which I thought was perfect because we have a furry little Yeti.
Great.
And then, I could show you. We did one animation test just to make sure the hair was stable, and I can try and show that to you guys. Yeti working. Oh, this is really cool. I did pay a really talented rigger to help me make his face, because I rigged him, but I could not figure out how to rig a face. So he rigged the face, and my animator did some facial expressions, and it was like the most exciting point in my career, I think, just dreaming up this character and then seeing some really talented people bring him to life. So there's that version.
It's awesome.
And then there's a version of him. I think there's a version of him. The
visuals are impressive. The color palettes and everything. It's gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
Wow.
Yeah. Sorry.
Really cool style, man.
Yeah, it's animation. Here we go. So this is our little test to make sure the wind was blowing right. And then we have this little aurora borealis kind of comes through and wakes him up. But yeah, he animated this in like a day, and it blew my mind. So
awesome.
Once we start really like focusing and animating stuff for real, I can't wait to see what we come up with.
Wild, man. Thank you so much for sharing this. Yeah. I can't wait. So what's your best guess on when people will be able to kind of dig their eyes into this?
I have no idea. I have so many other projects going on that I have that need my attention. So this is just something I'm kind of doing in my free time. It is, yeah. I don't know, but I'm having fun with it. It's taken forever, but I learn something new every day. So I don't know, maybe at the end of next year, it would be cool if it came out around Christmas time or something.
That would be very cool.
Project.
And you do have a couple connections over at Netflix, so who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe I could just pitch it to them and be like, guys, help me make this.
Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. That's awesome. Really cool to see. I agree with Blender Bob completely. Speaking of passionate people, Marco, are you ready? Has the coffee kicked in? Here, it hasn't kicked in because it's muted.
You're muted.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah.
Come on, Marco, wake up. So, I think, yeah, I should be sharing the screen now. 5 add-ons that I can't live without would be most definitely the import image add-on. So I'm actually using Midjourney for, that's not an image from Midjourney. But for my live streams, I use Midjourney to normally create an image. And then over the course of, 2 hours or so, we try and replicate that image. Here I took an image from Endor that we imported. And then, yeah, just kind of made, I'm currently making a short ad as if it's a 1980s Texas used car salesman. And I've already imported it into Blender and so on and so forth using the Blender connector. So I think that's probably one of the other really big add-ons that I use. And hopefully the computer's not dying at the moment. Come on, baby. Come back. The other really big add-on that I use will be the Re-Illusion connector, because obviously this is where I do all my motion capture or my animation, and then kind of export it and bring it into Omniverse directly. Or if I have to fix up anything of the clothing. The other probably big add-on would be the polygonic guys who have a massive set of cars and trees and so on and so forth. This one here is from their library of cars that's already been rigged, and all the things you can do in there. Let me just go back into camera mode. And so this is kind of like the Charger, one of the cars that I've been mucking around with last night. And by far, Dream UV. I'm a super lazy UV unwrapper. And so this is how most of these assets have been created. So I think I've got some blank ones over here. Let's pick this one. If I click Dream UV, what it does is it will automatically unwrap to be, actually, I'll undo it and then I'll show you what the material looks like. Let me just jump over into my asset browser, throw on a material. There we go. And then what Dream UV will do is, based off the texture and how I've set it up with all the edges, that's how to unwrap. And because my texture already has all the edge wear on it, it just puts it together like that. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
How does it know how to cut to make sure that it matches with the texture?
I don't know.
This is like, wow, that's impressive.
So if we actually, I'll actually show you the texture. So this is what the texture looks like. And it's all based off, I've got a plane somewhere. Are you my plane? You're my plane. Yes, you're my plane. And so if we go into kind of material mode or go into render mode, I've actually got this all lined up with edges, and that's where it does all the cuts. And so it's basing, it's actually, if we now jump over into the cylinder and we'll jump over into UV, you can see that how it's kind of like auto-generated where it needs to go, what best fits. So yeah, that add-on, so much time saving.
Very
rather
nice.
than having to go into substance and so on and so forth. But I love your workflow, Emily. Chef's kiss. So
that's
yeah,
awesome.
It's funny. I got a lot of that from your videos, actually. Like the Blender to Omniverse stuff. It's like, oh my gosh, Mark from 3D is going to be here. Like, he taught me. That's so funny.
sick.
That's amazing. Very cool. And let me see. Do you have any questions that are, well, people are impressed by what they're seeing, Marco? Wow, any Dream UV?
Dream UV. Yeah, I think it's just the kind of like the easy workflow and being able to create like a kit bashing set like this super quickly, because now I can, let's go, I don't know, bring this in. Whoops. I am not even sharing screen anymore.
I was wondering what you were doing. I thought you were miming something.
but it's more now I can just quickly create some assets, texture it super quickly. I mean, you can see how quickly we textured that cylinder. And it's just me just now expanding that library and then being able to provide it to, you know, Patreon people or free downloads wherever. And just create ships pretty quickly. I mean, you know, we can now whip one up in 5 minutes. And then if I have to make any unique pieces, quickly model it, done. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am.
That's awesome. And so, where do you guys think things are headed next for Blender? Like, what are some of the big feature requests or big things that that you're hoping will come soon? What's missing?
For me, there are 3 things missing. MIP mapping for textures, because the plants I was showing you, all the plants have 4K textures, and your VRAM just explodes when you put too many things. So you have to go into simplify and reduce the amount, you know, the quality of the textures. But I don't want to do this, because sometimes I can get close to the plants and I want the full resolution. So if I had MIP mapping, it would easily change from one to another. So for me, that's one thing that's really important. Another thing that would be very important is the ability to have a low-res model on screen, and at render time, you load the high res. So there are add-ons like a Loadify and things like this, but you still have the high res in Blender loaded. I don't want this. It takes too much memory. I just want to load it as I render, like you can do in Arnold or RenderMan, or you just have a proxy. And that proxy, it could be a bounding box. It could be a low-res version. It could be just a point cloud. It could be you know, anything. You have different settings that you can use. And at render time, you switch for the high-res thing. And the third thing that I would really like to get, that things get better, would be the volumetric rendering. Because on the project that we did, the one I will present at Beacon, we wanted to use fog everywhere, and it was just killing the renders. At 4K, it's just forget it. And we couldn't render the volumetric fog at all. We had to do it in comp. We had to cheat it all the time. And I was looking, if you look at Arnold, for example, if you use volumetric in Arnold, it's like it's free. It doesn't even slow you down. It's super fast. It's a cheat. I don't know how they do it, but it's, you know, it barely slows you down. It goes super fast. So I spoke with the developers at Blender, and they know about it. They know how it's done, but implementing it is not as easy as just saying, oh yeah, I know how it's done, and just let's do it. And they already have a long list of stuff they want to do. But for me, these are the big 3 things that are kind of, I wouldn't say showstopper, because we still have been able to deliver our shows, but it would have been much, much easier if we could have just been able to swap high-res, low-res. Of course, you can have collections that say, okay, I'm going to show the low-res collection on screen, and at render time, I will just, you know, have the high-res only for render. But still, you need to have the high-res in your scene. And on the show we were working, just the bridge itself was 1.2 gigabyte file. So every time you open Blender, you need to load that big, heavy thing. Even if you have the low res on screen only for animation, for doing cameras and animatic, you still carry that 1.2 gigabyte file. So we don't want that. That's why, for me, it's super important to get this, to get a workflow for that. One of the developer wrote a script for me that would do this. So I know it's possible. We can do it. We had a proof of concept. We had the script to do it. But it was like hard-coded, where you would write the name of the asset and it links to this path for the high-res. But we need something that's automated, something that I will have my asset, my box, my low-res model, and I will have a path that I will just give it to, you know, just give it path, and automatically it will change at render time. Something that would be even better is to avoid to have writing a path, something that would say like, okay, the name is like underscore low, but at render time, go at the same path where the low res is, but get the one that says underscore high instead of underscore low, and it would automatically switch, so you wouldn't have to write a path and find it and everything and all this stuff. So, because that's part of our pipeline at Real by Fake. We never write any file names. We don't do save as and write a name, so you don't end up with like a car final, V2 final, approved, unapproved, V4, now it's finished. We don't have any of this. Everything is completely, you know, you just go publish your things, and it publishes everything. It names everything, it increments everything. And it's a pushed pipeline, meaning that if I save the car version 3, it's also going to write a file called car published. And if I write version 4, then it's going to override car published. So car published is always the latest version. So if we make a scene and we reference stuff in it, we always get the published version, so we know that we always have the latest version.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and this way you don't have any problems with where is that file? Where did you save it? And no. You don't even know. You don't even need to know how the file system works at Real by Fake, because you don't need to know. Everything is saved at the right place. Everything is named automatically. All the renders, it's all everything is connected, and then everything goes to Nuke. And in Nuke, they can just import the stuff. They don't need to find where it is on the network. You just have a graphical interface that says, "Hey, I want to load this," and it does it.
Very nice. Anyone else have any additional to add?
With Bob on the volumetrics, that's the one thing that's killing me with the Yeti or the Pabu project. Is just I'm actually in the process of like learning a little bit of compositing, because I feel like that's the only solution to deal with these render times.
One thing we did one time in the demo reel for the company, we have a stadium shot where we have the camera going around the people and we have volume there. We rendered the volumes in Eevee, and we rendered everything else in cycles. It worked in this situation because the camera was moving very fast and it's dark and everything. But for the bridge, we couldn't do it because the motion blur wouldn't register perfectly. So sometimes you would have like a camera that moves fast and the fog would not register with the cycle render. So we couldn't do this. But in some situations you could do this. You could just render your fog in Eevee and just comp it on top of the cycle render.
Yeah, I'll give that a shot. Thank you. That's interesting.
And I got a clip for that. It's called Crowds, I think. And at the end, I explained that stuff. Is it this one? No, there's another one. No, it's not this one. It's not Crowd. But there's another one where I explain the workflow, but it's not that hard, actually. So.
Very cool. And I think we're still getting some nice comments from the community. I don't know. So we're about out of time. Unless anyone here needs to show off anything on screen, raise your hand. I think we're good. So let me ask the audience. We have the opportunity to meet up on our Discord community voice room, or community room 1, it's called, if you like. So but I don't want to bring everyone there unless people are asking for it. So if you want to see us go to Discord, post in the chat, go to Discord or something like that, and then I'll know. Otherwise, I want to let Emily get her dinner. And what time is it over there? It's 9 o'clock or something. Yeah. She's muted, but I read her lips. I think she said it was 9. Okay, cool. But I want to thank everybody for coming here today. I've got a nice comment earlier from Bing Bong. Really likes the approach of live events, transparency, and real world cases for all of us outside the org. Speaking of which, has anyone here heard of Turbo Squid? Because Turbo Squid will be on next week's live stream at the same day and time. I bumped into my friend Paul Thiel over there at SeaGraph right after I saw you, Blender Bob. I saw Paul Thiel, and we're very excited to have a nice live stream with them next week. I don't want to give it away. We're working on the final abstract right now, but we'll add to the calendar and our Discord upcoming events. So if you're following our add event calendar, it should show up there any moment. And what is the consensus here about Discord? Bring your dinner to Discord. Okay, so let's go to Discord for at least a few minutes. So you asked for a community, so make sure you go there. Omniverse Discord is discord.gg/NVIDIA Omniverse. We'll meet there. And want to thank everybody once again for coming. Really fantastic to have this group of people here talking about such a great app in Blender. Thank you, Charles, for your expertise and your wisdom. Is there anything where we need to share on Blender from the NVIDIA side of things, or?
Not quite yet, but we're all still very actively working on fixing bugs and getting some new stuff coming. And maybe one person on this call has seen some of the fun new stuff, and it's working out pretty well. So just be patient. We're almost there.
Okay, very good. And where's the best place people to talk with us about Blender work? Should it be on the Discord or the forums? We have a sub forum for Blender.
Yeah, we're checking both. Discord is a great place though to have conversations with more people. It's a pretty active community.
And so we do have a channel there called Blender. So if you're not there, go to that channel and you'll see Charles on there, along with some other members of our team. I want to thank everybody once again. We're going to head to Discord now. We'll see you back next week for Turbo Squid. Thanks, everybody.
So where on Discord are we going?
Oh, so you can, if you go to the Omniverse Discord server, you're going to see a room called Community Room 1, and you're going to see a bunch of people pop in there in a second. So you'll know where to go when you see all the people there.
Okay.
And just to note for all the panels here, StreamYard is saving the local audio and video. So don't close the browser. If you forget and you do close the browser while it's uploading, you can come back later on and it'll pick up where it left off. And that's so we can get a high-res audio video for highlight clips afterwards. All right, so I'll see everybody on Discord.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
That's good. Thanks,
Thank you
guys.
so much.
Bye.
See ya.